Blake Lively may have just blown up her own case against Justin Baldoni, and the footage everyone's talking about is why. The video she relied on as proof doesn't match what she claimed, and now people are saying the evidence was exaggerated or flat out false. As the clip gets dissected online, her credibility is taking hits fast. It's starting to look like another high-profile case unraveling in real time, with Blake heading down an Amber Heard-type path right before our eyes.
I feel like maybe Blake smelled his kindness, mistook it for weakness, and tried to take advantage and take power. So, yeah.
So you believe Blake Lively wrestled control of the film?
I think she tried to, yes.
Did she succeed in the end?
Probably, yeah. I think that there was a massive compromise in terms of Justin's original vision for the film.
Look, I get why you're here. Blake Lively has been everywhere lately. She's suing Justin Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds is publicly backing her, and she's lawyered up with one of the most powerful attorneys in the country. On the surface, it looks like an open and shut win. Most people assume she can't lose. But here's what's not being talked about enough. New evidence just surfaced, and it seriously undercuts her narrative. We're talking about video footage that directly contradicts key claims Blake made. Not rumors, not anonymous sources, actual visuals that raise major credibility questions. And once you see it, the entire case starts to look very different.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
And they are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, before we get into how Blake may have damaged her own case, you need a quick recap of how this whole situation started. I'll keep it short because most of you already know the basics. Back in 2023, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni were filming It Ends With Us. During production, reports say they clashed over creative direction, which honestly isn't unusual on a movie set. Disagreements happen all the time. But according to filings and public statements, Blake didn't stop at calling it a creative dispute. She escalated the situation into something much bigger, turning a behind-the-scenes conflict into a legal and public battle.
One of the key allegations in her complaint against Justin Baldoni was as follows, from paragraph 48 of her complaint. She writes, on another occasion, Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Lively were filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. Instead, he spoke to Ms. Lively out of character as himself. At one point, he leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips from her ear and down her neck as he said, "It smells so good." None of this was remotely in character or based on any dialogue in the script, and nothing needed to be said because, again, there was no sound. Mr. Baldoni was caressing Ms. Lively with his mouth in a way that had nothing to do with their roles. When Ms. Lively later objected to this behavior, Mr. Baldoni's response was, "I'm not even attracted to you."
Blake then came forward and accused Justin Baldoni of sexual harassment. She alleged that he made inappropriate sexual remarks on set, engaged in unwanted physical behavior, and created an intimidating work environment throughout the production. These are extremely serious, career-ending accusations. But Blake didn't stop there. She also claimed that Baldoni, along with a crisis PR team, orchestrated a smear campaign to damage her reputation after she spoke up. According to her, this was retaliation meant to silence her. She didn't just say this online either. Blake filed a formal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department and followed it up with a federal lawsuit against Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, alleging sexual harassment and retaliation.
Now to the legal war between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. She's asking for over $160 million in damages.
Who and what we stand up for matters.
In newly unsealed documents, Blake claims Justin's alleged smear campaign cost her more than $56 million in lost work opportunities, $49 million in endorsements from her beauty brand, $22 million from her beverage companies. Justin's denied Blake's smear campaign claims.
But Justin Baldoni wasn't about to sit back and take it quietly. He immediately denied every allegation and pushed back hard through his legal team. Baldoni's lawyers argued that Blake's claims were exaggerated, misleading, and taken out of context, and that no formal complaints were made during production. They also rejected the idea of a coordinated smear campaign, calling it a fabricated narrative meant to control public perception. According to Baldoni's side, the real issue wasn't harassment, but creative disagreements and power struggles on set that later got reframed as something far more serious. And this is exactly where the case starts to unravel.
Justin Baldoni, he has fought back yet again. He filed a lawsuit against the New York Times, which we had Brian Friedman on to discuss, saying it had done a defamatory report on Blake Lively's claims that she was allegedly harassed by this guy when they shot the movie It Ends With Us, a film about domestic violence. In that claim, they said the Times distorted the truth. They did not report text messages which were full and complete, which showed a very different meaning than the snippets that Blake Lively put in her complaint. And that what in fact happened was Justin didn't harass Blake. Blake was interested in wresting control of this movie away from Justin, who was the director and the producer. She was just an actress in it, and used threats and coercion and bullying to do it. And to the point where this guy was in the basement at his own movie's premiere. Now Brian Friedman has filed on behalf of Justin a lawsuit directly against Blake, Ryan Reynolds, and Leslie Sloan, their PR hack. And they're alleging not only did our PR team not hurt Blake or generate a campaign against Blake or do anything to hurt Blake in last August when she came under negative press. That was organic because of her own bad behavior. But you guys were the ones out there generating negative press against Justin. You bullies were the ones who were trying to ruin Justin so you could have your way on all the scenes and all the wardrobe and all the control, and you could feel like the producer and the director when you weren't.
And that's when the tide started to turn. In October 2025, previously unseen behind-the-scenes footage from the set quietly surfaced during discovery. This wasn't a blurry clip or a leaked rumor. It was raw, time-stamped video that directly contradicted key parts of Blake's sworn statements. Interactions she described as hostile appeared calm and professional. Moments she framed as intimidation showed no distress at all. Even more damaging, the timeline in the footage didn't match the sequence of events she outlined in her complaint. Almost overnight, legal analysts stopped asking if Baldoni could survive the lawsuit and started asking whether Blake could.
Breaking news, a federal judge in New York dismisses Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against Blake Lively now. It Ends With Us director and star filed that $400 million lawsuit against Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist, alleging extortion and defamation. Lively's attorneys just said in a statement, today's opinion is a total victory and a complete vindication for Blake Lively, along with those that Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties dragged into their retaliatory lawsuit, including Ryan Reynolds.
That's when Blake's biggest mistake happened. After the judge dismissed Baldoni's countersuit, she and her team went on a quiet victory lap, leaking narratives to the press that framed the ruling as proof she was right all along. Headlines implied total vindication, even though the core harassment claims hadn't been tested yet. That overconfidence backfired fast, because while Blake was celebrating in public, Baldoni's legal team was still in discovery, still gathering evidence, still preparing to dismantle her claims piece by piece. And the more Blake talked, the more contradictions started piling up, especially once the footage entered the conversation.
Blake's red carpet moment at a Tribeca Festival dinner felt like a full-on victory lap. As a source today tells ET, she's feeling relieved, and husband Ryan is proud that she stood her ground.
And that Tribeca dinner moment rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. This wasn't a quiet survivor keeping her head down while a serious case played out. This was Blake Lively celebrating publicly, smiling for cameras like the battle was already over. Ryan Reynolds standing beside her only amplified the message. They thought they'd won. But legally, nothing had been proven yet. No testimony, no cross-examination, no ruling on the harassment claims themselves. To critics, that smile became symbolic. It looked less like relief and more like arrogance. And in hindsight, it mattered, because just weeks later, the narrative shifted once the footage surfaced and people started asking whether Blake celebrated too soon.
Lively's euphoria is a little premature, and I guess I should tell you what she's saying. She's thrilled. You won't be surprised to hear. She's absolutely thrilled. I'm going to show you a video as she arrived Monday night at the Tribeca Festival. It's the artist's dinner. This is Monday. Here she is. Let's watch it. She's all smiles. She's clearly in a great mood. I mean, she's acting like she won the case in chief against him. She didn't. And nor did the judge find that Justin's allegations are untrue. The judge just said, basically, you can't sue her for allegations she makes in a complaint she filed with the Civil Rights Department. Can't sue her for defamation for that. It's covered by a privilege. He didn't say what she said was true. He didn't say Justin's likely to lose this case at trial, like the case against him. But she's acting like the judge did, and it's a lie. She comes out, this is per BuzzFeed, on her Instagram story. She referenced the 19 organizations that wrote amicus briefs in support of her, Friends of the Court. She began, last week, I stood proudly alongside 19 organizations united in defending women's rights to speak up for their safety. Like so many others, I've felt the pain of a retaliatory lawsuit, including the manufactured shame that tries to break us. While the suit against me was defeated, so many don't have the resources to fight back. Okay, she's got $1 billion. Give me a break. I mean, it's absurd that any court would even consider making her pay Baldoni's legal fees, but he does not have $1 billion. Ryan Reynolds made that off of the sale of his liquor company, reportedly, never mind what they've earned as actors. I'm more resolved than ever to continue to stand for every woman's right to have a voice in protecting themselves, including their safety, their integrity, their dignity, and their story.
She even went on social media thanking everyone who stood by her, making it sound like Justin Baldoni was finished and the case was already over. Blake basically declared victory before a trial had even started, and that's where the problem comes in. A dismissed countersuit doesn't prove innocence or guilt. It just means there are legal rules about how and when claims can be filed. But Blake treated it like she'd won the Super Bowl. And that confidence turned into a liability, because when you celebrate too early and evidence surfaces later, it doesn't just weaken your case, it damages your credibility. And that's exactly what happened next, because the footage Blake relied on finally came out, and it changed everything.
Guess what? TMZ has gotten its hands on that video, and you can hear Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni interacting as themselves, knowing that this is all on video and that this is going to be used to create this dance scene. And no such moment is shown. Just watch it. Watch it.
That's fine. No, that's more romantic. Oh my gosh, we don't stop.
And Emily and I had like...
Right. And then says, it smells good. And she says, it's my body makeup. That's her big harassment moment. They are playfully acting for the camera, trying to make it look like two lovers, two people in a relationship are dancing with one another.
And guess what? The video shows absolutely nothing. I'm not being dramatic. There's no inappropriate touching, no sexual comments, no intimidation, nothing even remotely close to what Blake described. People watched the footage expecting something shocking, and instead they saw a completely normal on-set interaction. That's when public opinion started shifting fast, because when video evidence directly contradicts sworn claims, it raises serious questions. If this moment was presented as proof and it falls flat, what else doesn't add up? Even Baldoni's lawyer stepped forward and said the footage speaks for itself, adding that facts, not narratives, will decide this case.
No, absolutely no feelings about this guy, Justin Baldoni. In fact, to be perfectly honest, I reviewed some of his social media, and he seems kind of ridiculous with his toxic masculinity, lamentations, and so on. But that's fine. That's me. So I'm not on his side. But my point is simply, I just don't see it. In their incendiary complaint, where they're trying to do their best to bash him and the PR team, I don't see that the second loop closed of, and then here's where they did it. It's just all supposition. They don't have these great texts saying, look what I got placed in the New York Post.
He confirmed that Baldoni made it clear from the very beginning that he never intended to harm Blake Lively, damage her reputation, or sabotage her career. According to his legal team, his only goal was to defend himself against what he says are false and exaggerated accusations. And honestly, the public isn't buying Blake's story anymore, not after watching that footage with their own eyes. But it gets worse, because this is where Blake really slipped up. One of her most serious allegations involved a scene in the film where her character undergoes a gynecological examination. She described it as invasive, uncomfortable, and traumatic, claiming it crossed professional boundaries.
Remember she said that they made her perform the birth scene with like a slit covering up her lady parts, and then he brought on his best friend to play the doctor and let him linger down there below where he could check her out from a gynecological perspective. And then that person, that actor came forward to say, this is such a lie. That's not true. She had on biker shorts the entire time. And by the way, I'm not just his buddy. I've been in all sorts of like Shakespearean productions and other big productions, and I'm insulted at their description of me just coming over as like an ogling buddy of Justin's. F off. Just yet another one of her obvious lies.
Blake claimed that during this scene, she was only wearing what she described as a slit covering over her private area, and she alleged that Baldoni's close friend, who played the doctor in the scene, could see everything. She painted the picture of being fully exposed, vulnerable, and humiliated while cameras were rolling. That's an extremely serious accusation because if it were true, it would represent a major violation of on-set safety and consent standards. No actor should ever feel that exposed during filming. However, things took a sharp turn when the actor who played the doctor came forward publicly and directly contradicted Blake's version of events, raising even more questions about what really happened.
How Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni are going to win this case. You don't have to take all 20 of her allegations. Pick your top 4, right? And show. You don't have to take Baldoni's word on the birth scene. Listen to Adam Monshine, who is telling you he was there. And by the way, here are the raw film outtakes from the whole thing, where you can see she is wearing black shorts. She does not have just a thin piece of fabric separating her genitalia from everybody there. And let's sit and listen to her alleged multiple requests for a cover, which everyone blew her. I bet it's not going to be.
After the biker shorts revelation, the narrative around Blake shifted fast. Once credibility cracks, everything else comes under a microscope. The footage didn't back her up, witnesses contradicted her, and public opinion started turning. Instead of slowing down or letting her lawyers handle things quietly, Blake doubled down. She continued framing herself as if the case was already won, leaning into public sympathy rather than addressing the inconsistencies. That move may have played well on social media, but in a courtroom, it's risky. When facts don't line up with statements, confidence can start to look like overcompensation. And that's exactly why this next move made things even worse.
Lively is making a strategic legal move as her courtroom battle with Justin Baldoni inches closer. Blake Lively has brought on powerhouse attorney Sigrid McCauley, best known for representing Jeffrey Epstein's victims, ahead of her highly anticipated trial against Justin Baldoni. According to People, McCauley will focus on public and media communications tied to the case, joining Lively's existing legal team as they prepare for proceedings in New York. In a statement, McCauley said the case centers on a woman standing up against a hostile work environment, while Lively's attorneys praised her experience, quote, speaking truth to power.
In January 2026, Blake hired Sigrid McCauley, a powerhouse attorney known for representing Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Sounds serious, right? Here's the problem. Sigrid isn't handling Blake's legal case at all. She's doing crisis PR, just image control, that's it. And this is where Blake completely trips over her own argument. One of Blake's main claims against Baldoni was that him hiring crisis PR proved guilt and a smear campaign. That was her logic. So what does it mean when Blake does the exact same thing? By her own standard, it suggests she has something to hide. The public sees the hypocrisy loud and clear.
What's happening, to the extent you can tell us, with Taylor Swift? Because there was some reporting that you wanted to get the text messages between Blake Lively and Taylor, and that there was a potential for subpoenaing Taylor Swift, in this case, via document subpoena to get her texts and possibly even a deposition. And then that her father allegedly came to you and said, I will tell you what's in the text. And the reason I'll tell you is because Blake Lively's threatening my daughter, Taylor Swift, that if she doesn't speak out on Blake Lively's behalf, that Blake Lively's going to retaliate in some way. So tell us what you can.
Sure. Just out of respect for, people that aren't parties to the lawsuit, there's not a whole lot that I can get into. But I think that people who are relevant to the case and people who, have otherwise been with people from the beginning of the case, side by side, shoulder by shoulder, are potentially witnesses in the case. And so, those are things that we need to look into. Those are things to see, what in addition to what we know already, we need, and then to move forward and obtain that discovery. There's a short leash on how far we can go with discovery. I think the judge has made it very clear that third parties need to be directly relevant to claims. And we think certain third parties are directly relevant, but it's just whether or not you need that evidence in addition to what you have already.
Rumors are swirling that Taylor Swift's father may be prepared to turn over private messages between Taylor and Blake to Baldoni's legal team, and the reason being claimed is wild. According to online chatter, Blake allegedly pressured Taylor to publicly support her lawsuit, implying that if she didn't, years of private messages could be exposed. There are also claims Blake asked Taylor to delete past conversations, which critics say raises red flags. To be clear, none of this has been confirmed and remains speculation. Still, the mere existence of these rumors is already fueling public doubt and complicating Blake's case in the court of opinion.
Superstar Taylor Swift says she won't be deposed in the ongoing legal battle between actress Blake Lively and actor Justin Baldoni. The judge in the case ruled Baldoni's attorneys waited too late in the proceedings to file an extension requesting Swift be deposed. Lively and Swift are friends. Lively is suing Baldoni over claims of sexual harassment and retaliation.
And here's what we know for sure. Taylor Swift has made it clear she will not be deposed in this case. She's not giving sworn testimony, and she's staying completely out of it. That alone is raising eyebrows. If Blake were truly the victim she claims to be, wouldn't her closest friend want to back her up under oath? Wouldn't Taylor be willing to confirm what Blake allegedly told her behind closed doors? Instead, there's silence and distance. And if those private messages ever do surface, the narrative could shift fast from alleged victim to alleged manipulator. That would shatter whatever public sympathy Blake has left. So where does this case go next? Let's walk through the timeline.
The ongoing civil trial between film stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has been postponed by 2 months. Originally set for March, a New York judge is changing the trial date to May 18th. Sources say the decision was made to accommodate other criminal cases on the docket.
The full civil trial for Blake's sexual harassment and retaliation claims is scheduled for May 18th, 2026, in the Southern District of New York. That's the moment this case would finally go in front of a jury. Originally, it was set for March, but the court pushed it back due to scheduling conflicts. However, here's the twist. This trial may never actually happen. With mounting credibility issues, contradictory evidence, and growing public skepticism, legal experts believe there's a strong chance this case could end in dismissal, summary judgment, or a quiet settlement long before opening statements are ever heard.
Today we're looking at Blake Lively's January 22nd hearing in the Southern District of New York, where Justin Baldoni is asking the court to dispose of her claims on summary judgment without a jury trial. Procedurally, Lively has active claims alleging a hostile work environment, retaliation, and reputational harm arising from the It Ends With Us production and Fallout. Baldoni and Wayfair, Baldoni's company, deny liability and have now moved for summary judgment on her remaining causes of action.
Because on January 22nd, 2026, there's a hearing for Baldoni's motion for summary judgment, and this is where everything could end for Blake. A summary judgment means the judge can dismiss her case before it ever reaches a jury if the court decides her claims don't hold up legally. No trial, no dramatic courtroom moment, just over. And based on what's already come out, Baldoni's team has real leverage. The debunked birth scene allegation, the TMZ footage showing no misconduct, and the optics of Blake hiring crisis PR after accusing Baldoni of doing the same all work against her. Add in long-standing rumors about her being difficult on set, and the perception that she celebrated too early, and her credibility takes another hit. At this point, the biggest threat to Blake's case isn't Baldoni, it's her own inconsistencies. So what do you think? Are these missteps finally catching up to her, or can she still pull this off? Drop your thoughts below.